Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome. Today for Testimony Tuesdays, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I saw the hand of God move throughout my pregnancy and after my pregnancy, and how the doctors were saying one thing and how God glorified himself in another way. So stay tuned if you guys want to hear that testimony. But before we hop into the testimony, I want to quickly tell you guys a little bit about me. I'm Cindy, and my channel is about kidney wellness, lifestyle, travel, and Testimony Tuesdays, and just a ton of stuff that I love to share with you guys. So if you're new, consider subscribing, guys. So I found out that I was pregnant in April of 2014. I was only 18 years old when I found out, and I was completely in shock. Like, it came to me like out of nowhere. Like, I thought I could never get pregnant for the simple fact that I knew I had kidney problems in the past. And if you read everywhere, every place tells you like you can't get pregnant when you have kidney disease. You can, it's just very difficult. And I kind of trusted myself in that. And I remember I was shocked, completely shocked, and I didn't take the pregnancy test until a week after I started to feel like pregnancy symptoms, after like throwing up and feeling nauseous. I didn't take it because I really thought I wasn't. And I thought I was just going through a bad cold or a bad fever, because I literally would get sick every single week. And I knew it was due to like having medical problems in the past, but I guess it didn't really I didn't really think about it. I guess I was just so used to being sick all the time. So I didn't think anything of it. I later took a pregnancy test, and I was completely shocked when it came out positive. And I told Anthony was there when I took it, and I remember I was just so scared to tell anybody. I was scared to tell my family, and just like I was just in shock and just so scared. You guys can imagine, I was only 18 years old, and when you're that young, and I was still in high school, I was only a senior in high school. So I remember the next day I started to bleed, and when I started to bleed, I thought I was having a miscarriage. So I told Anthony, and I was like, Anthony, I want to go to the hospital. I think I'm having a miscarriage. And he's like, okay, let's go. So we ended up going, just me and him. And I remember I signed it. I signed in all the forms, and of course when you're signing, they're asking for your medical history and just all these questions. And I put no, like saying that I had like a clean, healthy medical record, which I lied, because in the past I wasn't, I didn't have the best medical record. And then they brought me in, I changed, they started to do blood work, and then I just waited. I waited for the results to come back, and I remember I waited about 3 to 4 hours, and he came back in. The doctor said to me, "Are you sure you've never had any problems in the past, any medical problems?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "But I'm looking at this," and he's just like looking at the labs. The whole time he wasn't even looking at my eyes. I guess he was kind of nervous to tell me what was going on, even though I kind of had this little feeling like that he was gonna mention something about my kidney problems in the past. And I was like, well, I did have some problems when I was about 13 years old of dealing with kidney disease. And he was like, yeah, I could see that here. Your labs are really bad. Like, you're super anemic right now. You need a blood transfusion, and you need to start dialysis. And he just goes and he was just saying, you need to have an abortion, and just saying all this stuff. And I was like, what? He was like, you need to stay here. And I was just completely shocked. He was like, you need to stay here. We have to admit you, and you need a blood transfusion right away. And I was like, no, I'm sorry, I cannot stay here. Nobody knows that I'm here. Nobody even knows I'm pregnant. I cannot stay here. And he's like, don't worry, we'll call your parents. We won't tell them what's going on. We'll just tell them that you were feeling tired and sick, so you came in. And I was like, no, sorry, I can't do that. So I remember I signed the medical release forms, and I left. 2 weeks went by, and nobody knew what was going on. I still kept it in. It was still a secret. Anthony's family knew, but my family didn't know yet, because throughout those 2 weeks, I was praying to God, and I was asking God to give me the strength and the courage to tell them. And also, when I do tell my mom, that she could take it calmly and that she can have a peace. I didn't pray too much for my dad and my sister, because I was just like, I thought they were going to take it more easy. But I made that mistake. I should have prayed for them as well. And then I remember I told my mom. She took it very calm and easy, the way I asked God. And then my sister and my dad didn't. And I remember I made an appointment to go see the OBGYN because I had finally told my family and I had to go get a checkup. And when I was making the appointment, they had the hospital that I checked into 2 weeks ago send them the records of that visit. And I remember when I walked into that appointment, I went with my mom, Anthony, and Anthony's mom, and we went, and just me and my mom went back into the room, and the doctor walks in and she's like, you're dying, you're dying, and you need to have an abortion right away, and you need to start dialysis because your blood work and your blood work, your creatinine is super high, everything's really bad, like you need to have an abortion right away. And I was already 2 months pregnant when I found out. So in April when I found out, I was already 2 months pregnant, and I was like, no. And she just kept saying, you need an abortion, over and over and over again. And she said to me, I think you should go home, think about it, and come back. And my mom stopped her right there and was like, no, she just told you she's not having an abortion, she's gonna continue this pregnancy. And I remember I was nervous. I knew that I wanted to continue the pregnancy because I knew that I'm not gonna kill my baby, I'm not gonna have an abortion. And I'm a Christian, so I'm completely against that, no matter how difficult it is. You know, I'm against that. Everybody has their different opinions or their different views, but I'm not pro-abortion. So I remember I was like, no, and I left the appointment and I was crying because they told me all this stuff and how my pregnancy was super high risk. Then she told me that she no longer wanted to see me as a patient. I had to find a new doctor, and they recommended me to a high-risk doctor. And I remember when I went to the appointment, it was about 4 days later, around so. He told me I had an ultrasound, and he came back and was like, you know, the ultrasound shows that that you're gonna have complications in your pregnancy, that your daughter's most likely gonna be born with Down syndrome or some type of sickness, because her skull head shape is a strawberry head shape. She has her heart is not developing correctly, and she has too much amniotic fluid around her, and just all this negative stuff, and just all this stuff that I was like, wow, like I was like crying. I was in shock. And then he told me, he was like, it's impossible for your daughter to survive, and it's gonna be a miracle if we save you. And when he told me that, I started to cry even more. Me and my sister and my mom went to this appointment, and I remember I just cried in the car, and I was just crying and crying. I was like, God, give me the strength. And I would pray, and every night literally I would cry because it was so much. And I would just pray and ask God, God, help me, give me the strength, give me a healthy daughter, give me the strength for my baby, just help me. And I remember about a week or so after, I received a phone call from my doctor, not really my doctor, but it was one of the doctors at the OBGYN that I first visited. And because the other doctor that I saw when I went to that appointment didn't want to see me no longer, so she gave, I guess, my files to a different doctor in the same office, and then recommended me to another one. So I remember she calls me and she's like, hey, I have some people at Innova that are willing to take your case, but you need to go down there right now. They're waiting for you, and you're just gonna go there, and they know you're coming. So go over there, they're gonna take your case, don't worry. And I'm like, I'm only gonna go if I'm out by Sunday, because I remember something like that. I had to be out within 3 days. And she's like, yeah, don't worry, like, it's just in and out, it's gonna be quick. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I remember I went to Innova, and when I was there, they admit me into the hospital, they start doing blood work, and they're like telling me, you need to start dialysis, and they're still pushing abortion as well. They were still telling me, you know, it's not too late, you know, you're gonna have all these complications. Your daughter's most likely gonna be born with Down syndrome. You might as well just have an abortion and just all this stuff. And then they were really pushing dialysis. And I was like, no, but I feel fine. Like, I don't wanna start dialysis. My body feels good, I feel fine. And I remember I was in the hospital telling them, no, I don't want dialysis for 3 days. And then, you know, when you're not complying to all like the medical stuff, they send somebody else, and it's like they make you see a psychiatrist and all these other doctors. Anyways, I went through all those loops. So when that all happened, the doctor came back and he told me, he was like, well, now we have to start preparing your funeral, and we need to prepare your funeral and your baby's funeral because you guys aren't gonna live. I give you guys 2 days the most, if that, but you need to start dialysis right away because you will die. He told me that. And I remember my mom was on the left side of me, and I remember I just looked over at her and I just started crying. Like, I was trying so hard to be tough because I didn't want to see my mom in pain, because yes, I was going through this, but imagine your kid, your child going through this. Imagine the pain she was feeling. And I just couldn't hold it in, and I just started crying and sobbing, and I look at her and she's crying too. And I'm like, I had to do dialysis because they were telling me this. I felt so pressured, and I was like, I have to do dialysis. So I ended up doing dialysis, and I only knew that I was pregnant for 4 months, but I did carry my baby for 6 months because I had her at 27 weeks. So I'm gonna fast forward throughout the pregnancy. I was doing dialysis 6 days a week, and I remember that when I had my daughter, she was only 27 weeks, so she was extremely preemie. She only weighed 2 pounds, 2 ounces, and it was difficult. I had her, like, I had a normal pregnancy. I gave birth to her, like, vaginally, and it was normal in that aspect of, like, the delivery, but then after it wasn't, because I remember, so she was so small, so they had to take her to the NICU, and they had her there. She was anemic, she had jaundice, her skin wasn't developing right, and she was born with kidney problems, heart problems, hearing problems, eye problems. And then I later found out that she had a genetic problem. She had an extra chromosome, which is a microduplication, and it's an extra chromosome on the 16th chromosome. And I remember when they told me that she had this extra chromosome, they started to read down a list of all these symptoms or all these things that are seen with people with this extra chromosome. So they told me she could have schizophrenia, she could have ADHD, she could have hard time developing, walking, talking, learning, like her developmental learning, and just all this stuff, and a weird skull shape, and just all this stuff that is medically considered, you know, I guess complicated or difficult or special. And when they told me this, I remember I didn't let it get to me. I just was like, you know, I have my daughter here. I'm gonna focus on her right now, and I'm just gonna pray. And I did that. I prayed for my daughter, and I would pray every single day, and I said, God, you know, if you gave me my daughter, then you're gonna give her to me completely healthy, and throughout her life, I'm gonna see her develop, and I'm gonna see her develop perfectly. I'm gonna see her healthy, I'm gonna see her strong, I'm gonna see her intelligently, and I'm gonna see her every day improve in her knowledge. And I was just like, God, you have control over her life. She is, you're like giving her to me to borrow, but she belongs to you, God. And if she belongs to you, if she's a daughter of you, my Lord, then you will keep her healthy, strong, alive, and just have her develop perfectly. So I remember when she was discharged from the hospital, I had to follow up on a ton of doctors because of all the complications she was going through. And the worst complication for me, at least I felt, was the kidney problems. I was so worried about that because I knew I had kidney problems, and I knew how painful it was to deal with it. And that's really what, you know, impacted me the most in her health. Like, I was like, if it's genetics, okay, God has control over it. If it's heart, you know, God has control over everything. God has control. And of course, kidney disease as well, God has control. But I was just so worried because I knew what that is to go through. And I was like, God, please heal her kidneys, because she was born with extra fluid around her kidneys, and I guess it was like complicating the extra fluid. And I was like, God, please heal her kidneys. Please, God, like, I beg you, heal her kidneys. And of course I would pray for the other things, because she was born with a heart murmur. I would say, God, you know, close that heart murmur, because if it doesn't close on its own, she would have to have surgery at the age of 2, which she did, because unfortunately it wasn't able to close on its own, but she did have a PDA closure, which closed the heart murmur. And then about 6 months after her kidney problems cleared up, her hearing got better, her eye problems, they still had to keep following, and now she's wearing glasses. Also, her developmental, you know, I had early intervention follow her throughout her growth, and praise God that everything, you know, she would develop everything on time. Sometimes she would exceed some certain limits, but she was very pushing. She would fight. She is a fighter in everything she does, so she pushes herself as much as possible, and I'm so grateful for that. One thing that I did notice, which I'm pretty sure it comes from the extra chromosome, because me or Anthony don't have this, is that her skull is shaped a little different. It comes out right here in the middle, like it bumps out a little, and I did read that with this extra chromosome, that is common in like the kids. And also bad eyesight is very common. She does have a super strong prescription for her glasses, but I have bad eyesight too. Thank God for LASIK, because that's what I had done, and then her dad does as well, so it could also be because of our eyesight. But I am so grateful to God how God moved, because even though my daughter is medically diagnosed with an extra chromosome, I've seen how he glorified himself in her life and how he blessed us through her. And I'm so grateful. Like, she is 4 years old and she's super smart. Like, it wows me how intelligent she is. And one thing that I love is that she is so loving and caring. She will love and care, you know, for anybody. And you know, there's times that sometimes my health gets in my way and I start to cry, or I feel sad and some things, and she'll come and hug me and say, "Mommy, it's okay, don't cry." And she'll come and kiss me and love me, and she's always looking out for me, just like I'm always looking out for her. She's so loving and looks out for me, and I feel so blessed that, you know, God has given me such a precious gift. And I want to share that with you guys, because if you guys have a child with this extra chromosome, just know that you're not alone. You know, you have God, you have us, you have God that will help you throughout, you know, your child's life. And you have to fight, you have to pray, you have to fight the good fight, you know, fight the battle of faith, and don't give up. Always speak life over your child's life. Always speak that they are healthy, that they are covered, that they are, you know, developing correctly, and just trust in the Lord and what He is doing. But you have to surrender everything to Him. Surrender your life, your kids, everything to the God Almighty, you know, our Savior, our Redeemer, and just trust that He is going to take you and your family in the right direction. So I want to share this with you guys because it's amazing how God, you know, works in His mysteries we might not understand. And I always say that my daughter saved me, because if I didn't go to the doctors, because the only reason why I went to the doctors was because I was pregnant, and if I didn't go to the doctors, I would have never known that my kidneys had reached end stage, and I would have never known that they were basically gone. And you know, kidney disease is a silent killer, and it would have killed me. And I always say, like, God, you are so perfect. You know, we don't understand your mysteries all the time, but at the end we're like, wow, we're just shocked, and we just see how you did everything so perfectly. And I'm so grateful to the Lord, and that's why I really wanted to share this, to tell you guys, keep fighting, keep believing, and keep trusting in the process of the Lord. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Have a blessed and beautiful day, and see you guys next time for Testimony Tuesdays.